we are what the future is for women.
Yeah.
And I look at having my daughter.
Hollywood loves a good fairy tale. It builds these love stories that seem way too perfect, almost too beautiful to be real. And for a while, the story of Demi Moore and Ashton Kutcher was the most captivating show in town. You had Demi, the iconic, raven-haired superstar, one of the highest-paid actresses in the world who had already defined a generation. Then you had Ashton, the charming, goofy heartthrob, the new king of primetime TV. Theirs was a romance that broke all the rules, especially with a 15-year age gap that became the obsession of every tabloid and talk show. They were gorgeous, they were in love, and for a minute they actually made the world believe that even in Hollywood, the most unlikely love stories could get a happy ending. But behind the flashing cameras and red carpet smiles, a completely different story was unfolding. It was a story about vulnerability, deep-seated insecurity, and a desperate attempt to cling to a love that felt like a second chance. For years, all the public saw was the picture-perfect couple, but the reality was a slow, painful unraveling. It was a dream twisting into a nightmare. For years, they were the Hollywood couple that defied the odds, a whirlwind romance that charmed the entire world. But behind the glamorous life, a devastating story of betrayal and heartbreak was playing out in private. Now, at 62, Demi Moore is finally breaking her silence, and the truth about her marriage to Ashton Kutcher is more painful than anyone could have imagined. What she revealed wasn't just the end of a marriage, but the near destruction of a woman who had always been a symbol of strength. This is the story of what happens when the fairy tale shatters, and the grueling journey to find yourself in the wreckage. To really get the depth of Demi Moore's heartbreak, you have to understand the hope that came before it. In the early 2000s, Demi was at a crossroads. She'd been through a very public, though remarkably friendly, divorce from Bruce Willis. As a mother of three, she was focused on raising her daughters away from the Hollywood spotlight. In Hailey, Idaho, she was a global star, for sure, but she was stepping into a more private chapter of her life. And then, in 2003, Ashton Kutcher walked in. He wasn't just a new boyfriend. He was, as she later put it, a chance to relive a youth she never really had. Demi's own childhood was marked by constant chaos and trauma. In her memoir, Inside Out, she shared the absolutely harrowing story of a nomadic life with parents battling alcoholism. She described the moment her childhood effectively ended when, as a little girl, she had to dig pills out of her mother's mouth to stop a suicide attempt. She grew up carrying adult burdens long before she was an adult. So, when she met Ashton, a man 15 years younger, with boundless energy, it felt like a gift from the universe. When I met Ashton, she wrote, I felt like I was being given a chance to relive my youth. For the first time, I could love without being guarded. Their connection was instant and powerful. He was 25, she was 40. The world was obsessed, and often judgmental. But for them, the age gap didn't seem to matter. Kutcher, despite his bachelor reputation, adjusted surprisingly well to her family life, embracing his role as a stepfather to Rumor, Scout, and Tallulah. Demi praised how he genuinely connected with her daughters, not as a replacement for their father, but as another source of support. In a 2023 interview, Kutcher reflected on that time, stating, I was 26, bearing the responsibility of an 8-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 12-year-old. That's how some teen parents must experience their 20s. He admitted it was a heavy load, but also spoke of his love for the girls, saying he never would have married a woman with 3 kids if he didn't love them. For Demi, this blended family was a dream come true. She and Bruce remained incredibly close, and Ashton fit right into that modern family puzzle. They married on September 24, 2005, in a private ceremony at their home, surrounded by about 100 guests, including Bruce Willis. It looked like the ultimate symbol of love conquering all. Demi felt safe and seen. She felt like, for the first time, she could finally let go of the tight control that had defined her life. She wasn't just Demi Moore, the movie star. She was Ashton's wife, a woman deeply in love, building a future she desperately wanted to believe in. The beautiful life Demi and Ashton were building was about to be shaken by a devastating blow. Soon after their wedding, Demi, then 42, became pregnant. It was a joyous surprise, a symbol of their new life. They were expecting a baby girl and had even picked out a name, Chaplain Ray. The pregnancy was a source of incredible hope. Ashton was reportedly thrilled. He'd embraced being a stepfather, but the idea of having a child of their own was something special. But nearly 6 months into the pregnancy, the unthinkable happened. Demi had a miscarriage. The loss was a private, silent grief that shattered their idyllic world. In her memoir, Demi wrote about the profound emptiness and the crushing guilt she felt, blaming herself and wondering if her age or past habits were the cause. It was a suffocating burden of shame and sorrow. Ashton was in immense pain, too. He spoke about it years later in an interview with Esquire, calling it really, really painful. He said, losing a kid that you think you're going to have, and that close to thinking you're going to have a kid, is really, really painful. Everyone deals with that in different ways. And that was the problem. While they were both grieving, the ways they processed it started to drive a wedge between them. Demi retreated into her guilt, and Ashton, maybe unsure how to handle the depth of her pain, struggled to connect this shared trauma, which should have bonded them, instead became the first major crack in their marriage. The ghost of Chaplain Ray haunted their relationship. Desperate to conceive again, they started intense rounds of fertility treatments, but the clinical, emotionally draining process was unsuccessful. The pressure mounted, and the easy joy they once shared began to fray under the weight of unresolved grief. It was during this vulnerable time that Demi's old demons crept back in. After years of sobriety, she started drinking again. It began small: a glass of wine, a beer with Ashton. According to Demi, he, being younger and in a different phase of his life, didn't see it as a problem. She wrote that he told her he didn't believe alcoholism was a real thing, that it was all about moderation. For a woman with a history of substance abuse, this was a dangerous idea to entertain. But she wanted so badly to be the fun wife who could share a drink with her husband, to erase that age gap. So, she let go of the sobriety that had kept her grounded for years. It was a decision that would send her down a dark path she had fought so hard to escape. The fairy tale was starting to crumble. As the emotional gap between Demi and Ashton widened, a quiet desperation took over. The carefree joy of their early days was replaced by a gnawing insecurity. Here she was, a woman, in her late 40s, married to one of the most desirable young men in Hollywood, and the fear of being left behind became an obsession. This fear pushed her to make choices that went against her better judgment, all in an effort to prove she was still the cool, fun wife he wanted. It was in this state of mind that she agreed to something that she would later regret with every fiber of her being: bringing other people into their bedroom. In her memoir, Demi revealed that Ashton had suggested threesomes to keep things exciting. Haunted by the thought that he might feel bored or trapped, she went along with it. "I thought if I could do everything exactly the way he wanted, I wouldn't get left behind," she wrote with heartbreaking honesty. "But in the end, I just left myself behind." She later called the decision a mistake, something that should have been private but instead became a source of deep personal shame. This wasn't just about physical intimacy. It was a total shift in the power dynamic of their marriage. She was no longer an equal partner, but someone performing a role, trying to twist herself into the image of the perfect wife for a younger man. In the process, she was losing herself. The decision to open their relationship, born from her own insecurity, would later be weaponized against her in the most devastating way. Her substance use also got worse. The occasional drink became a frequent crutch. She started abusing painkillers, adding another layer to her dependency. She described her attachment to Ashton as its own kind of addiction, one that was even more damaging than alcohol because of the intense emotional toll. She lived in a state of constant anxiety, terrified of his disapproval, always watching him, trying to read his moods. The powerful woman who had commanded Hollywood sets was now walking on eggshells in her own home. Looking back, Demi said she was living in a luxurious shell, feeling completely hollow. Every party and public appearance became a performance, designed to hide the truth that her marriage and her mental state were unraveling. The media saw the perfect couple, but Demi knew the truth. She was a woman clinging desperately to a man who was slipping away, and she was sacrificing her well-being, her boundaries, and her own identity in a futile attempt to keep him. The stage was set for the final, brutal betrayal. The final implosion of Demi Moore's marriage to Ashton Kutcher didn't happen in a quiet, face-to-face conversation. It happened in the cold, impersonal glow of a smartphone screen. The ultimate heartbreak was delivered by a Google alert. By 2011, their marriage was just a shadow of what it once was. Demi was on the East Coast directing a film, a career achievement that should have been a moment of triumph. Ashton was in San Diego with friends, celebrating what was supposed to be their 6th wedding anniversary weekend. The distance between them was more than just miles. It was an emotional canyon. And then, the notification popped up on her phone. A news story, a rumor. A headline alleging that Ashton Kutcher had cheated. The details were specific and sordid. He had cheated on her with a 21-year-old woman. Demi's world fell apart. When she confronted him on the phone, she said he tried to deflect, using their past experiences with threesomes to blur the lines of their commitment. He essentially tried to justify it, suggesting that their own arrangement had made the boundaries of monogamy unclear. It was a cruel, manipulative defense, using a vulnerability she had shared with him as a shield for his betrayal. The pain was only made worse by the fact that this wasn't the first time. There had been another woman, Sarah Leland affair, that was later publicly confirmed by actor Scott Eastwood, who revealed on a talk show that Leal was one of his girlfriends at the time Ashton slept with her. When confronted about this second instance, Ashton's defenses crumbled. He confessed. In her memoir, Demi described the moment of his admission as one where she could barely breathe. The man she had rearranged her entire life for, the man for whom she had compromised her sobriety and sense of self, had not only betrayed her but had done so on their anniversary weekend. The humiliation was total and agonizingly public. Just days after the news broke, they were contractually obligated to appear together at an event for their foundation. Demi had to stand on stage next to him, smiling for cameras, listening to him give a speech about integrity, all while her heart was in a million pieces. She recalled that the weight of that public performance was almost unbearable. When his infidelity went public, Ashton didn't issue an apology. Instead, in a truly bizarre move, he went on Twitter. First he posted a cryptic message about seeing his family and deleting a snarky tweet. Then he tweeted out what appeared to be his personal phone number, telling people to text me for the truth. It turned out to be a publicity stunt for a tech startup, a move that seemed to trivialize the profound pain he had caused. Years later, in a 2023 interview with Esquire, Ashton finally addressed the period around Demi's memoir, not with remorse, but with anger at the renewed media attention. He said he was effing pissed that the book brought paparazzi back to his children's school. While he said he wished Demi no ill will, his focus was clearly on the inconvenience to his new life, not the devastation he had caused in his old one. For Demi, the affair was the end. The trust was gone. On November 17, 2011, she announced their separation, and the fairy tale was officially over. The story of Demi Moore's journey is a powerful reminder of the resilience of the human spirit. If you've been moved by her story of heartbreak and healing, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the stories that shape our world. And let us know in the comments, what part of Demi's story resonates with you the most. Your engagement helps us continue to bring these important narratives to light. The end of her marriage wasn't a clean break. It was a catastrophic implosion that sent Demi spiraling into a crisis that nearly cost her everything. The public humiliation of the divorce, finalized in November 2013, was just the start. In the years that followed, she felt a profound sense of failure, feeling hollowed out and worthless after pouring everything she had into the relationship. Her substance abuse, which started as a misguided attempt to connect with Ashton, became a tool to numb the overwhelming pain. Her use of alcohol and painkillers got worse, and her health declined rapidly. She lost a shocking amount of weight, and friends and family grew terrified for her. The emotional trauma was showing up physically, and she was consumed by a deep loneliness. Tragically, her downward spiral led to a painful estrangement from her 3 daughters. For 3 long years, they weren't on speaking terms. Her daughters, who had watched her build a life with Ashton, were now watching their mother self-destruct. It was a period of deep sorrow for everyone. A source close to the family later revealed, Demi feels bad about the years when she wasn't healthy. She really tries to make up for it now. The breaking point finally came in 2012. She suffered a seizure at her home after inhaling nitrous oxide and smoking synthetic cannabis. It was a terrifying wake-up call. That night, she was rushed to the hospital and went straight into rehab. This was her rock-bottom, a moment of complete surrender. She had lost her marriage, her health, and, worst of all, her connection to her children. Her road to recovery was anything but easy. It wasn't just about getting sober. It was about unpacking a lifetime of trauma, from her chaotic childhood to her struggles with self-worth in the harsh glare of Hollywood. She had to learn to forgive herself, not just for the relapse, but for the ways she had abandoned herself in her marriage. The most important part of her healing was rebuilding her relationship with her daughters. It took time, patience, and a lot of honesty, but slowly, they found their way back to each other. Today, their bond is stronger than ever. A source told People magazine that she now has a beautiful relationship with all of her daughters. They have become her biggest champions, celebrating her triumphs and standing by her side. When she became a grandmother to Rumer's daughter, Luetta, in 2023, it was a moment of profound full-circle joy, testament to her family's resilience. Demi's journey from the brink is a powerful story of survival, proving that even after the most devastating heartbreak, it's possible to find your way back to the light. Today, at 60, Demi Moore is not the broken woman she was after her divorce. She's a testament to the power of resilience, a survivor who has turned her deepest pain into profound strength. Her life is no longer defined by the heartbreak she went through, but by the grace with which she has rebuilt it. One of the most beautiful parts of her new chapter is the incredible bond she maintains with her ex-husband, Bruce Willis, as he navigates his diagnosis with frontotemporal dementia. Demi has become a key part of his caregiving circle, alongside his wife, Emma Hemming, and their children. Their blended family is a masterclass in compassion. They celebrate holidays together and support each other, showing a unity that transcends their past. In her memoir, Demi wrote, "It's a funny thing to say, but I'm very proud of our divorce. We managed to move the heart of our relationship into something new that gave the girls a loving, supportive environment with both parents. It's a philosophy she's stood by for years, and it stands in stark contrast to the wreckage of her marriage with Kutcher, highlighting what true, lasting family connection looks like." Professionally, Demi is having a major comeback, a renaissance, if you will. Her role in the 2024 body horror film The Substance was met with universal praise, earning her some of the best reviews of her career and generating serious awards buzz. The film, a sharp critique of Hollywood's obsession with youth, feels deeply personal. She plays an aging star who makes a devastating deal to reclaim her fame, a story that echoes her own struggles in an unforgiving industry. The role feels like a triumphant validation of her talent and her endurance. Most importantly, she has found a new sense of peace. In a recent interview, she talked about her relationship with her body and beauty. Beauty comes out of comfort with being exactly who you are, she said, reflecting a hard-won wisdom. She admits she still has insecure moments, but they don't define her anymore. Her focus has shifted from what others think to her own well-being. So, what's the real takeaway from the story of Demi Moore and Ashton Kutcher? It's more than just celebrity heartbreak. It's a painful and powerful look at vulnerability, self-worth, and the illusions we chase for love. For years, Demi Moore tried to be the woman she thought Ashton wanted, losing her own identity. In the process, she gave him a second youth, and in return, he gave her a devastating lesson in betrayal. But this story isn't about the fall. It's about the rise. It's about a woman who faced the complete demolition of her life, her marriage, her health, her family, and found the strength to rebuild from the ashes. She has since forged a life filled with real connection, deep family love, and a new sense of purpose. She has turned her pain into art, her struggles into wisdom, and her survival into an inspiration. At 62, Demi Moore is no longer defined by the men in her life or the roles she's played. She's defined by her resilience. She has finally, truly, come back to herself, proving that the most powerful love story is the one where you learn to save yourself. And in finding peace in her own skin, she has finally achieved the happy ending that Hollywood could never write for her.